Training with the elements has been one of the most widely appreciated workout theories so far. And for those of you who didn't get your copy yet, the link is in the description. But now, today we're going to do something different. Instead of using Avatar as a representation of the four elements, we're going to be using our favorite superheroes, representing water, earth, air, and fire. We're going to be exploring which element each superhero uses at their core, strategies in fighting, training, and appearances. This should give you guys a better idea on which element you will want to train in. So without further ado, let's begin. We're going to be starting with everyone's favorite big green monster, other than Shrek of course. We're talking about the Hulk. Now, I'm going to be honest, it was quite difficult to try to find which element corresponds to which superhero. That's because, well, they're super. They're all kind of great in fighting, strategy, and appearances, and they kind of use a bit of every element. Which is why we're going to be focusing on the core elements only of each superhero. So their main characteristics, their main traits. If you guys are not too sure on what each element does or is, I recommend go seeing my Avatar workout video, which is going to explain each element in more depth than this one. So now let's look at the Hulk. His main trait is that he gets really angry and he gets super big and super strong. And if you guys remember, fire was one of the elements that was associated with passion and strength. So obviously, I would characterize Hulk as using the fire element at his core, as well as the earth element, because he also is quite indestructible, and the earth element is an element that is very resistant. So if you pair together the fact that he's super big and strong and super passionate and indestructible, earth and fire are the elements that correspond best to our big green monster. Moving on now to the Flash. Now, the Flash is a bit more simple. He's just really fast. And if you guys remember the training video, speed was an athletic movement, and it was represented as the fire element. Now, I don't particularly remember the Flash being very fluid in his movements, or particularly muscular, or extra strong. I think he was just mostly very fast. And similarly, if I were to put Usain Bolt in this video, I would put him in the fire element. And sprinting is one of the main exercises of the fire training element. So this one's actually pretty simple. As for the Flash, he is a pure fire user. Now let's go to the Catwoman. Now, Catwoman, quite different actually. As you can see in her fighting style, she uses quite a bit more flexibility. Her movements are a lot more fluid. She'll climb on the person, she'll do a bunch of acrobatic movements. She's not particularly strong, extra fast, and she doesn't necessarily use the air that often. So she is a perfect representation of the water element. Moving on, Batman. I know this is a lot of you guys' favorites. Now, Batman was a little tricky because he's good in many aspects and also not good in other ones. Looking at his fighting style, he does seem to be very stiff, but also he stands his ground a lot when he fights. And he is quite big, I gotta say. So right away, I was thinking of Earth. Earth being an element of resistance, of focus, and of building muscle. But there was something else missing. I wouldn't put water, as you can see, because his fighting style at all doesn't resemble Catwoman's. And he's not particularly extra strong. I mean, he's very strong, but it doesn't pop out as much in his character. So the other element I decided to put was air, because I see he's always doing some sort of acrobatic movements while he's doing parkour, for example. That would be a representation of the air element. He's also doing a lot of body weight in his training, and tends to glide a lot in the air. So that's why I would put him as the air element as well. So air and earth are quite a unique pairing of elements since they are opposites. But I can see why you guys, I can see why he's one of your favorites. So as for Batman, I would put him as earth and air, mostly, as his element. Moving on to Captain America, the superhero who literally used steroids to become a superhero. Needless to say, that puts him a bit more in the earth element, since that is one of his main characteristics. This guy is jacked, absolutely, but he's also a bit more than that. He is also freakishly strong, so he not only is quite big, but he's also strong. And I also love his fighting style. He's doing acrobatic movements here and there. He's actually a really cool fighter. Now, which element would we associate with a more athletic type of fighting style? I would put fire. Fire would represent his strength, his passion to save his country, his acrobatic and really strong fighting style. But also, what does his shield represent? His shield represents defense, focus, resistance. And along with his crazy muscular structure, Earth would be a perfect representation of that. Needless to say, he could also jump really high. As for the fire element, jumping is an athletic movement. Now, he's in the air a lot, but he's not necessarily very light on his feet. And he's not very fluid in his, he's not as fluid as Catwoman, let's say. So, along with his freakish strength and crazy muscular structure, I'm going to have to put his core elements as fire and earth. Moving on to the Black Panther. Now, the Black Panther was quite difficult as well. He seems to be quite good at everything, but there was one element in particular that stood out to me, and that was the fluidity in his movements. Now, I was hesitating between air and water, but I was leaning a bit more towards water, because that one was the element that seemed to come out the most in his fighting strategies. He crawls a lot. He does a lot of full body jumps. He'll climb on things. He'll scratch things. Then he'll land like a big cat. So that represents more of the water element, especially in the training package that I have for you guys. A lot of the movements I show you guys, and a lot of the weighted yoga type videos I have for you in the program resemble a lot what the Black Panther does in his representation as a superhero. So that's why I put him as water. Moving on, now we have SpiderMan, one of my personal favorites. Now, SpiderMan, he right off the bat, I would cross out Earth, because he doesn't represent Earth in almost any way. He's not too jacked, he's not too defensive, not very focused. He talks a lot, and he's just not an Earth type of superhero. What I would say though, and I would have put fire in here because for his size, he's extremely strong, but it doesn't pop out as much as his ease to be in the air and his flips, and he's just all over the place. So that's why right away what came to mind was air and water. He's always putting himself in that full body crawling position on the ground, which is representative of the water element. Combining that with the aerial mobility that this guy has, he's almost impossible to hit. And even when he hits you, it could be pretty strong, especially with the momentum he can gain from the air. So Spider-Man is one of the best representations of mixing air and water together in one superhero. So that's why I would put him as air and water and not fire. And Wonder Woman. This one is a unique female character for the elements, I would say. The Amazoness tribe was, I gotta say, quite good at everything. And yeah, I wouldn't pick a fight with them, let's just say that. So, but now let's look at the elements. She is very strong. She is quite, fluid in her movements. She is, however, she is the beefiest woman character that I know of, at least. And that would put her more in the Earth category for me. And especially the fact that she has a shield represents focus, resistance, defensive strategies. So I would right away put her as an Earth element. And obviously she does a lot of jumps and tricks in the air, more than I would say the Black Panther, because she tends to glide in the air as well. So the air element, she seems to really coincide with that element more than I would say water or fire necessarily. So I think she gains a lot of her momentum from her air capacities and the momentum, as you can see there. So I would put her as air and earth. Last but not least, you guys saw it coming, Superman. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. This guy is practically like perfect as a superhero, but he doesn't master all the elements yet. Right away we see air, of course. He flies, he glides, he's quite mobile in the air. There's no question about it. I would definitely put him as an air fighter. Right now you see he's insanely strong. This guy is one of the strongest, or the strongest superhero, I think. So, I mean, he's also shooting fire out of his eyes, so he definitely represents a fire element as well as air, but it doesn't stop there. He is also quite muscular and jacked, and of course not in every Superman movie, but especially in the comic books and the latest Superman or Man of Steel, he is quite muscular, but he is also bulletproof. He is also quite indestructible. So he also gains the earth element. The only element that I would say that he doesn't quite master very well is water, because he's more of a typical stiff male superhero that has literally everything else going for him except fluidity and change of mind and spirit and that connection that water elements gave you. So Superman uses at his core fire, earth, and air. Now I know what you're thinking. Is there any superhero or anyone that uses all four elements? Of course, other than the Avatar himself. And yes, that would be, yeah, of course, you guys guessed it. It's Goku from Dragon Ball. This guy, I'm not even going to show you the video clips. It would make this video way too long. But obviously Goku has the whole package. But that's it for today, guys. So let me know if you guys like this type of video. If you guys learned anything from this element association game I was trying to play with you guys. So that's it for today. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.